Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third class today, the Z sound. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Jennifer Tarle with Tarle Speech and Language Services, and I am just thrilled that you're joining me today for this class on the Z sound. So if you have questions, please let me know during the session. I'm going to try to monitor them as best that I can. Also, you can feel free to post questions after the session on the YouTube page, on the comment section. You can also email me. My email is on the front of the presentation, and that leads me into handouts. Handouts will be posted on my website by the end of this week. So our agenda for today is going to be talking about the top ESL American English consonant sound mistakes. And we're going to do a deep dive into the Z sound and do a lot of practice. Okay. So hello there. It's great to see you. Thank you again for joining me. And if you enjoy this, please do tell a friend. Share it with them. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. I'll be posting a lot of new short minute of speech videos, which I know many of you have been asking about. They are going to be there soon, so please be patient. You can also follow me on Google+ and on LinkedIn. And my website is on the front of the handouts. It's www.tarlespeech.com. That's Tarle Speech, S-P-E-E-C-H, and that is my last name, Tarle. Okay, so what are the top consonant mistakes that I hear my foreign-born English-speaking clients make? Number one has to be the TH sound, which we just recorded a class this morning, and so you can find that in the recorded events on the TH sound. Another big sound mistake is the sound we're going to be talking about today, the Z sound, which I'm super excited about. This is one of those sounds that if you have a really good accent and people really understand you, but you kind of want to soften it a little bit and you don't want people to ask you, where are you from? Z is where it's at. This is going to be the sound that if you fix it, it's going to really diminish a lot of your tiny mistakes that you're still making. But those mistakes don't necessarily get in the way of your meeting sometimes, but they do make you sound like you have an accent. Another big mistake that I hear is the NG sound in the word sing. A lot of times I'll hear people say sin instead of sing. So then there are some confusing sound pairs. We have V and W. So are you saying vine or wine? And we're going to talk about that next Monday. We just finished a class this morning talking about SH versus CH. Are you saying shoe or chew? And then last but not least, RL. And I'm going to throw W in there for all of my Japanese clients that just really love these three sounds. Are you trying to say read, lead, or weed? So what's the difference between those three sounds? That is also going to be next week at a special time, 6 a.m. U.S. Central Time, which is evening in Asia. And so hopefully that will help all of my clients there be able to attend the class. Okay, so let's share this again. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's talk about the Z sound. Who mispronounces this sound? Lots and lots of people who speak different languages as their mother tongue. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say almost all ESL speakers mispronounce the Z sound at the end of words. I find this pretty much to be, at least in my clients, a good 100% of the time, because there are a few rules that people aren't really aware of. And so this is going to help you to avoid those mistakes. What mistakes do I hear? The most common mistake by far is that I hear people say the S sound instead of the Z sound. So I hear people say Sue instead of saying zoo. And this gets into the mistake that no one is really aware of. I hear people say hiss, the sound that a snake makes, instead of his, meaning he, his, hiss. So his has a Z sound at the end, even though it's spelled with an S. Yes, that is confusing, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a little bit during the class. J, this is another mistake. I hear this a lot with my Korean speakers and my Japanese speakers. So people might say Joan instead of zone. Why is that, do you think? Well, if you try to say these two words, Joan, zone. The big difference is that for the J sound in Joan, you touch your teeth. You touch your teeth with your tongue, Joan. For zone, your tongue does not touch your teeth, Joan, zone. And then the last one, we have the DZ sound. People will say odds instead of Oz. Odds, Oz. And this is a similar mistake to that J sound. You could notice I typically hear J at the beginning of a word and DZ at the end of the word. It's almost exactly the same mistake. You're touching the tip of your tongue to your teeth for the D. Odds instead of Oz. So that's the big difference there. It's don't touch your teeth. Your tongue stays away from your teeth. Okay. When you see the letter Z, typically we read the letter Z as the Z sound. So letters in English are different than sounds. The letter Z in print most of the time is pronounced as the Z sound. Zero, crazy, apologize. So that's nice and easy. Here's where things get confusing. Spelling. The sound, the Z sound can be spelled Z. Zebra, breezy, recognize. It can be spelled with two Z's that we only say one time. Blizzard, dazzle, buzzer. And now we kind of get into the confusing part. It can be spelled with an S. Cousin, music, bags. Yes, cousin, music, bags. It can be spelled with two S's. Dessert, access, that's a mistake that I will fix. And advantageous, that's a huge mistake. I will fix that for sure, everyone. And then STH, asthma, and X, xylophone, and Xavier. So again, the handle to be posted on my class with on my website after class with correction. So check back for that, and I will fix my little spelling faux pas, which is the second one of the day. So forgive me for that. Okay, so let me stop sharing my screen so you can see my face again, so we can talk about how do you make this Z sound correctly, because it's very confusing for people. Let's start with our lips. Your lips are going to be in a slight smile or a smirk. Zzz, zzz. Your tongue, the tip of your tongue is behind your top front teeth. Zzz, zzz. It is not touching your teeth. You never touch your teeth with your tongue for the Z sound. Now, some people have reported to me that they make the Z sound with the tip of their tongue towards their bottom teeth. That's fine, as long as it sounds okay and you are not touching your teeth, because the same mistake can happen. If you touch your teeth at the bottom, you're still going to hear that d, d, d sound instead of the z sound. So again, the trick here is do not touch your teeth, and the tip of your tongue should be behind your front teeth. Most people will make it behind the top front teeth. Some people make it behind the bottom front teeth. Either is fine as long as it sounds correct. Just want to make sure that you do not touch your teeth. The airflow is going to continuously move out of your mouth and your voice is on. This is super important. Your voice must be on, especially at the end of a word. So what's voiced versus voiceless? Let's talk about that a little bit. Say the sound T, the T sound. T, T, T. Now hold your throat and say that. T, T, T. Now say the D sound. D, D, D. Touch your throat again. D, D, D. Now say the letter T, 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 and D. D, D, D. On that letter D sound, your voice is vibrating. Your vocal cords are moving and your throat is vibrating. That is creating voicing. The Z sound is voiced. Z, z. The big mistake that is not voiced, and which is what I hear a lot of my clients say, is s, s, no voice, z is voiced. So remember, your throat is going to be vibrating for the Z sound, and that is key, especially at the end of the words. So let's bring this up so you can see the directions, because I know a lot of people like to read them. So your lips are in a slight smile. Your tongue tip is behind your top front teeth. Do not touch your teeth. Again, it's okay. Some people do make the sound with the tip of the tongue down behind the bottom front teeth, but again, the key is do not touch your teeth. The airflow moves continuously out of the mouth, and your voice is on. So the big takeaways, the tips: do not touch your teeth, make sure the air keeps moving, and keep your voice on. Okay, so we're going to do some simple practice here. And I want you to make sure that when you start practicing, the first thing that you're going to do is listen. Listen, listen, listen. So that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to be looking at you and then looking off to my other screen so that I can see the words. But your job is to listen and watch my mouth. Okay, this is all the Z sound, just listening. Zone, 0, zip code. Zone, 0, zip code. Visit, miserable, preserve. Visit, miserable, preserve. As is, has. As is, has. And in a sentence, please familiarize yourself with the plane's evacuation procedures. Please familiarize yourself with the plane's evacuation procedures. Okay, so let me pull these up and show you the PowerPoint so that you can follow along and repeat after me. So just repeat after me, each word. Zone, 0, zip code. Zone, 0, zip code. Give those a try. Visit, miserable, preserve. And try those on your own. Visit, miserable, preserve. Let's do each word. As, is, has. As is, has. Give those a try. And now let's try the sentence. I highlighted the word with the Z sound so that you can see when to use the Z sound. Please familiarize yourself with the plane's evacuation procedures. Please familiarize yourself with the plane's evacuation procedures. And now let's answer some questions. So I'm going to read the question, and then I want you to repeat it, and then we're going to answer the question. I'll answer the question, and then you take a turn to answer the question, okay? Which do you prefer, amusing friends or composing music? Which do you prefer, amusing friends or composing music? I prefer amusing friends. Number 2, what do you think of Amazon as an organization? I think Amazon is an interesting organization. And number 3, where would you like to visit with your brothers, sisters, or cousins? I would like to visit Zimbabwe with my cousins. Now let's read the paragraph. Again, full disclosure. The paragraph might not make a lot of sense. My goal was to give you as many Z sounds as possible. And so please excuse the confusing paragraph and any grammatical mistakes that may have occurred. I'll read it and then you take a turn. I didn't realize that Z is a commonly used sound. It is in words like has, his, was, and he's. It is important to recognize when to use the Z sound. Maybe my cousin will supervise my practice since I usually practice 0% of the time. I will familiarize myself with words, practice, then generalize my new skills to conversation. Then, when I visit Arizona, people will think I am amazing. Okay, give it a try. Okay, so let's take a second to talk about this. Did you keep your tongue away from your teeth for this sound? Did the air keep moving for the Z sound? Did you use the Z sound in the words that are very small, like is, has, his, was, he's? That's really important, and you want to make sure that you really focus on those small words because that's going to make a big difference. This isn't in the slides, but I do want to comment about this. The Z sound with the voicing, it's really going to help you with your vowels. So this is a little bit outside of the scope of the class, but I do have some recorded events on word stress and on intonation that you can check out. And later in the year, probably more in 2016, in the new year, I'm going to have a class on how do you pronounce S at the end of words when you're making a plural or a possessive or when you're conjugating a verb. That is very different depending on the sound that comes before it. And the reason that that's important is because that Z sound versus the S pronunciation at the end of the word is going to impact the vowel that's before it. All vowels are voiced, and so if the vowel is voiced and there's a voiced sound like the Z after it, that vowel will sound a little bit longer than if there was a non-voiced sound after it. So let's listen to two words, hiss, his, hiss, his. The first two sounds of each of those words, are exactly the same. The only difference is the last sound, s, z. And in those two sounds, the only difference in the s and z is the voicing, z. So when you say hiss, that vowel is going to sound a little tiny bit shorter than when you say his because your voice stays on from the vowel, knowing the voice will be on for the Z sound. So that's why it's really important to work on this Z sound, even though it seems kind of like a small thing and people still understand you. This is nice. This is going to give you a lot of bang for your buck to soften your accent, especially if that's something that's kind of concerning to you. So how do I do this? We've been talking about this in every class so far this morning. Hear the difference. Listen, listen, listen for this sound. You can also do a Google search and Google search word lists that words that are pronounced Z that are spelled with an S, and tons of words will come up. But listen to American English, listen to podcasts, listen to your American friends, listen for that Z sound. You will be shocked, as all of my clients are, how often we use the Z sound in American English. A lot of languages don't use the Z sound, even when a word is spelled with a Z. So this is a big sound that you're going to have to do a lot of listening practice. Remember, listening practice doesn't have to be very active. You're not listening for content. You're listening for the sounds. You're listening for which words have those sounds in it. You can listen. You can jot down words that you hear that have the Z sound in them that you need to practice. You can listen passively while you're cleaning or exercising just to kind of get that cadence of English and the different sounds and the different rhythms of English kind of in your brain. And that'll be very, very helpful. And it's a great, easy way to speak practice in. Next is sound production. Always remember, this is a hierarchy. We're moving from easy to much harder. Conversation, of course, is the pinnacle. It's where everybody wants to get. Everybody wants to use their sounds in conversation perfectly. But remember, think big, start small. We're going to start practicing words, then sentences, then while reading, then in conversation. Also remember, it's going to be easier to speak with someone and practice your conversational skills when you're very comfortable with that person, when you can take your time to sort of reflect on what you're saying, as opposed to when you're presenting in a meeting or you're having a telephone conversation with your boss. So remember, think big, think that pinnacle of conversation, but start small and work your way up. And practice, practice, practice. That is key. Fit as much practice in as you can. So what are some tips for practicing? Again, listen for the Z sound. Keep a list of words that you use with the Z sound and practice word lists, reading out loud, talking with a friend. When you start reading out loud, circle the words with the Z sound in it so you can really focus on those. Practice for short periods of time throughout the day. Remember, practicing perfectly for 5 minutes in the morning when you wake up, for 10 minutes on the bus, for 10 minutes at lunchtime, for 10 minutes on your way home, and for 10 minutes before bed adds up to a lot of practice, as opposed to if you only practice for, you plan to practice for a half an hour, but you can only practice perfectly for 10 minutes in the morning, and then you never come back to it. Look away from the printed word to engage your muscle memory. Remember, not only are you learning a new language rule in your brain that goes on top of your language, you're also going to be learning what to do with your mouth and what to do with your ear, with listening, and how is this sound different. So working on what your mouth is doing and how this sounds by not looking at the printed word is going to be very, very helpful. Correct a friend to work on your listening. If you don't live in the US and you have another friend who's working on their English, meet up, tell your friend about this class, have your friend watch this class, and then the next time you get together to practice your English, really correct each other so that you know you are able to then hear mistakes. Once you can hear those mistakes, then you can correct those in yourself. Get coaching from your friend who's speaking English or from an American native English speaker, but make sure you tell that person who's American to correct you. We don't want to embarrass anyone, and most American speakers will not tell you that you are mispronouncing words. So make sure you tell them, please tell me if I say something incorrectly because I don't want to be embarrassed and to keep mispronouncing words. Lastly, focus on the sound that you're practicing when you get started and then move on to more complex things. Let's say you're focusing on TH and Z. It's going to be hard when you're learning those two sounds for the first time to really practice those sounds at the same time. However, once you start getting better with TH, once you start getting better with Z, then you can practice words like these, those. Those both have the TH and the Z sound in them. So keep in mind, it's a journey. Okay, check out my website for spelling rules. I also have lots of free pronunciation videos that you can find on my website and on YouTube. Subscribe to YouTube. I'll be posting a lot more videos for you so that you can have quick practice on the go. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and iTunes. You can also get my podcast. If you're interested in practicing, available on my website are practice pages that have a lesson with written directions and then practice word lists at the beginning, middle, at the end of words, practice sentences. And the best thing that everyone loves is they come with audio and video, so you can both see and hear me practice all of those words, and that is very helpful. Okay, so let me make sure I didn't miss any questions here. I don't see any comments on my page. So I think that we are all set. If you have any more questions, as I said, please put those in the comment section under the YouTube video. You can also email me. I love to hear from you, and I am happy to answer any questions that you may have. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed all 3 classes. If you missed any, check out my YouTube page, and we will definitely have those posted for you. Handouts will be available at the end of the week, and next Monday, we have 2 more classes for you. So check out my Facebook page for those details, and they're also listed on my YouTube page. So again, thank you, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.